So, for those of you who do not know, Financial Beginnings Oregon is a nonprofit organization, and we provide free financial literacy programs to youth and adults in partnership with local schools and community-based organizations statewide. Our goal is really to be able to educate folks on really important financial literacy topics such as banking, budgeting, credit, in managing risk, and other topics as well. We provide programming for kids starting in kindergarten. So we're starting to talk to kids as early as the age of 5 years old, and all the way through adults. We like to joke and say that we have programs for people who are 5 to 105. So just know that whatever your interests are, there's a good fit for you. You know, whether you're interested in working with really young kids, high school students, or if you're interested in working with adults, there are opportunities for you to get involved and volunteer with Financial Beginnings Oregon. We work with people of all ages. In addition, our model is really what makes us unique. Our model is that we provide the curriculum, we provide all of the opportunities, and our volunteers, people like you, are the ones that go out and actually teach these programs to kids. So our volunteers are, you know, as you all heard in the introductions, mostly people from local financial institutions or insurance organizations and work in these industries and are really passionate about giving back and teaching people about personal finance and financial literacy. And the really great thing about all that is that you are all able to really bring these lessons to life for students. So you all have this really amazing opportunity being a person who works in this industry where you can bring your personal stories, your professional experiences, and things that you've seen and experienced working in your industry, and you can bring those lessons to students, really bringing these lessons to life for them in a way that's really unique. So just kind of giving you a little bit of background on our organization and kind of how we got started. So we're a nonprofit organization, like I mentioned, and we're actually we have an affiliate model. So there's a Financial Beginnings Oregon, a Financial Beginnings Washington, and there's also a Financial Beginnings USA. And this is a relatively new model. So for anyone who's kind of been been around or been involved with Financial Beginnings in the past, this is new. We just became an affiliate as of July 1st, 2017. And this is fantastic because now what that means is we here at Financial Beginnings Oregon can focus on the work we're doing here in Oregon. Our teammates up in Washington can really focus on the work they're doing in Washington, while Financial Beginnings USA can work on strengthening the curriculum. They can work on expanding into new markets and new states all across the country. There's actually, I think, about a little less than a dozen new states that are in the queue to become new affiliates, so this is just a really exciting time for Financial Beginnings and a really awesome opportunity for growth. Our mission is just really basic. Our mission is to provide free financial literacy programs, and we have what we call a full service approach. So we provide everything from the curriculum, all of the materials. The students get books. The teachers get and the students get books and activities and all the curriculum. And then we also provide a trained volunteer, someone like you, who actually presents the materials to the students, and we provide all of this for free. We do this in partnership with local schools and community-based organizations. And when we say community-based organizations, we are talking about either other nonprofit partners, groups like Habitat for Humanity or Boys and Girls Club. We also work with local homeless shelters or work with organizations working with people transitioning from homelessness, like transition projects and other homeless shelters throughout the areas. And then we also work with statewide organizations as well, such as Oregon Youth Authority and Oregon Health Authority. One of the biggest groups that we work with in the state are local correctional facilities. So we work with both youth and adult correctional facilities. And when we say CBOs, we're really encompassing all of those different types of organizations. And really, our goal is to provide financial education programs to everyone and to anyone who needs them. We really want to be able to provide holistic programs to anyone who is in need of financial literacy programming. So anyone who requests a program can have a program from us, and they can have it completely for free. So inherently, we believe that racism, classism, and sexism have effects of marginalization on specific groups in our society, and those that affect our structural society and in poverty as well, and have really big effects on marginalization of specific groups. So we recognize in that financial education isn't the only solution to poverty, and we don't necessarily consider ourselves an anti-poverty organization, but we do look at financial education as a resource and as a way to help give these groups a tool to learn about financial education, or learn about a system that they've often been left out of. So while we provide our programs to anyone who wants them, any organization or school, we really, really focus our resources on benefiting and providing our programs to groups who will benefit the most from our programs. So we have a really strategic focus on culturally specific organizations and or organizations that serve communities of color, schools and or nonprofits that work with low-income students and or participants, organizations that work with women. Like I mentioned earlier, we work a lot with people who are transitioning from houselessness, from homelessness. We work with folks who are transitioning from incarceration, and we just believe that strategically we want to be able to provide our participants with our programs. Since we do have a limited resource, we want to provide it to those who will benefit from it the most. So now I want to just take a quick minute to introduce you to our team, so you can kind of see who's behind the computer screen and who we are. Jasmine Roque introduced herself earlier. She is our volunteer manager. She is the newest member of our team. She joined us as of July of this year. We're so excited to have her on the team. And she basically is the person that you will work with the most. She manages all of our volunteers. She will be the person that will coordinate you in all of your programs, make sure that you are getting into programs, into organizations and schools that are a good fit for you and your interests. So if you're really interested in teaching credit in a specific county, she'll make sure you find out about those opportunities. My name is Priscilla Wagner. I'm the program director, like I mentioned, and my role is building partnerships and relationships with new schools and new community-based organizations statewide. So if we're not working with a school or an organization that you know of and you're thinking, wow, this resource would be so great with this other school or this other group that I work with, let us know. Let me know. Email me, introduce me to the group. If you set me up with a new program or a new class, that will be your relationship. You can teach the classes. I won't put it out to other volunteers, but it does, help us a lot to have new relationships and be providing our programs with people all across the state. So if you have, friends that are teachers, or you want to go teach this in your kids' class or anything like that, definitely let us know, because we want to be working with as many schools and nonprofits as we possibly can. Tom Moosberger is our development director, so he's responsible for all the fundraising, all the grant applications, and corporate partnerships that we work with as well. And then finally, Kate Benedict is the Financial Beginnings Oregon executive director. She has been with Financial Beginnings for the last couple of years. She came from the Oregon Food Bank in October now of, I guess, almost 2 years ago. It's funny, I've been calling her our new executive director for so long. She's not really new anymore. And really, Kate, since she came from the Oregon Food Bank, she has really helped us to expand our partnerships with more community-based organizations and more organizations working with adults. And that's been really fantastic for us as we've been working on expanding the work and the growth that we've been doing. But really, the most of you will be working in most part with either myself or Jasmine. We're really the two people that, if you have questions, you can reach out to us. And if you have, if you have any kind of tech issues getting in, into your account, or downloading materials, or looking for opportunities, or if you have, want to go teach this in your kids' class, we're the people that you'll want to reach out to, and we can always help you. So becoming a volunteer. So there's a couple of skills that we seek from our volunteers. First and foremost is just being comfortable with speaking in front of a group. Most of our programs are, speaking in front of a group between 5 to 30 people for between 45 minutes to 90 minutes. So we ask that all of our volunteers are comfortable speaking in front of a group for between 45 to 90 minutes at a time. That's kind of the average length of each of our programs. So just being comfortable, doing that and learning kind of what the skills that go along with that. So, when you're speaking to a classroom, making sure that you're looking at all of the students and you're engaging all of the students and both sides of the room. If, the students are kind of split up on two different sides, and that you're looking at both sides, and you're walking around and you're engaging with all of the students as much as you possibly can. We also ask that all of our volunteers are able to provide age-appropriate presentations. So, like I mentioned earlier, we provide our programs for kids from all the way from kindergarten through adults, so 5 to 105. So you very well might be, educating a group of 5-year-olds, and that's going to be very different than you will be talking to a group of high schoolers and teenagers, and very different than you would be talking to someone who's your own age. So just being able to really be able to take the curriculum and make sure that it's age appropriate. And again, we provide curriculum that's geared towards specific ages. So we have specific curriculum that's geared towards elementary level students and specific curriculum geared towards middle school students. But your tone and the way you present the information is just going to change and just going to be a little different depending on the group that you're talking to and depending on the age group that they are. We ask that all of our volunteers are able to be flexible and roll with the sometimes, ever-changing and fast-paced environment of being in a classroom or in a nonprofit. So, for example, you might get to a classroom and find that for whatever reason, even though 99.9% of the time, your materials are going to be there, the books arrived on time, your PowerPoint works, everything goes smoothly, there's always that 0.01% chance that something doesn't go right. And if that does happen, just being able to be flexible and roll with the punches and use the resources that you have to teach anyway. So for example, if your PowerPoint doesn't work for some reason, the teacher has all of the technology they need, but yet it's just not working, and you can't get a hold of me or you can't get a hold of Jasmine, hey, the students all have the student guide, you have your presenter's guide, you'll be able to put on a great class anyway. Let's say it's the opposite. Your PowerPoint's working great, but for whatever reason, and this happens sometimes, that the box of guides got sent back to us, and we didn't even notice until that morning because the class is on a Monday, and they tried to deliver it. They tried to deliver to the school over a weekend, which definitely happens sometimes. And we got the books back, and the students don't have their books. Well, being able to say, okay, well, hey, look, we're going to use the PowerPoint. I've got my presenter's guide, and Priscilla and Jasmine will make sure that the students end up with their guides at some point. So I can refer to them to these parts. They can take notes, and then later on, refer to their book later on. So just being able to be flexible and really roll with the punches. If something is going wrong, just being able to roll with it. And again, this is really not the norm. This is the really not the norm. Most times everything's going to go great, but on that off chance that something doesn't go right, roll with the punches and just be flexible. We also ask that all of our volunteers are professional. So I would say that business casual or whatever you're wearing to work is totally appropriate to wear in the classroom. So if you're wearing jeans in your office, that's totally fine to wear jeans in the school. But of course, on the other side of the coin, no ripped jeans or, shirt with profanity on it or anything like that. Even if you're trying to be funny or relate with students, I would say just being appropriate in your dress, business business casual is a great rule of thumb to your dress in the classroom. And then finally, being able to provide unbiased financial lessons free from any specific product or organization recommendations. So what does that mean for all of you who work for local banks or credit unions? Well, on one hand, I want you all to feel free to, and we encourage you to, talk about what you do, and talk about where you work. This is actually really important. We want these students, and especially students at the high school level, they're exploring career opportunities, and maybe they've never even thought about what it could be like or what it looks like to work for a local school or a local bank or credit union. So definitely talk about what you do, talk about where you work, and definitely feel free to really get into detail about working for a local bank or credit union or financial institution and what that looks like. We want you to do that. Also, if your financial institution has any swag, you can definitely feel free to bring that in with the students. A lot of the curriculum has activities and games built into it, so you can, bring swag in bring swag in as kind of like as prizes for the students if you want to. Totally up to you. But of course, on the other hand, what we can't have is anyone saying, oh, come to my bank or my credit union and we'll give you a free checking account or anything like that. But you definitely can do all those other things that I mentioned before. So our expectations for our volunteers, first and foremost, is to just spend some time after or even before you sign up for a class reading and reviewing through the curriculum. That's really, really important. All of our curriculum is super, super user-friendly. Everything is ready to go for you. When you go and teach a class, the curriculum is ready to go. Everything is there for you. The speakers, the slides have speakers notes in the slides ingrained in them. The presenter's guides has discussion points. It tells you, refer participants to page 5. It's really, really easy, but it definitely goes much more smoothly if you have reviewed it and you familiarize yourself with it beforehand. I'm going to show you how to access the curriculum online while we're on our training today. So I just want you to kind of point out, though, that you definitely should spend some time reading and reviewing through this curriculum before teaching class. We also have a whole variety of how to teach trainings that you can take. These are extra additional trainings that are not required, they're optional, but these are deep dives into the curriculum where we actually go through and teach you step by step how to teach a class. So we host these on a monthly basis. You can sign up for those on the same site that you signed up for this webinar. I'll show you how to access that before we sign off today. Also, really, shadowing is another great way to familiarize yourself with the way other volunteers are teaching. So when you first get your login information to our website, Jasmine will send you a whole bunch of shadowing opportunities. And these are great opportunities for you to go out and shadow before getting out and teaching on your own. We also ask that all of our volunteers commit to teaching 5 hours of class per year. Now, I don't want this to freak you out. If you can't teach 5 hours of class per year, we're definitely not going to, take you out the door or anything like that. But of course, we have about, I think, 800 active volunteers in our system. And if every single one of them taught 5 hours of class per year, we would have a diverse wealth of knowledge and opinions in the classroom. And we would really be able to give these students, diverse backgrounds, diverse lived experiences, diverse perspectives, and really provide them with a holistic lessons on these different topics. One thing we ask, though, for sure, all of our volunteers to avoid are any last-minute cancellations. This is really, really, really critical. Some of our teachers plan months in advance for us to come into their classroom. Some of them provide me, no joke, in September with a list for the whole year of when they want us to come for the whole year. They plan their lesson plan and their syllabus around when we're going to come in and teach these lessons. So for a lot of them, if they're expecting a guest speaker to come in and teach, and then that person just doesn't show up and doesn't tell them that they're not coming, that means that the teacher might not have a lesson plan prepared, and it doesn't really look great on us either. It doesn't look good, like we've got everything together. So it's really, really important when you sign up to teach a class that you do show up to teach that class. And if you find out for whatever reason that you're not going to be able to teach that class, that you give us as much notice as possible. It does take us about 15 to 30 days to recruit a volunteer for a class, to recruit a volunteer that's a good fit, that is in the right area, that wants to teach that lesson or has expertise in that lesson. And so if you cancel, 7 days out, the reality that we're going to be able to find a volunteer to replace you in 7 days, it just becomes smaller and smaller and smaller the closer we get. So the more notice you can give us, the better. But if for whatever reason you have to cancel last minute, you have a sick kid or you're sick, of course we recognize that life happens. The best thing to do is to reach out to the teacher directly and to reach out and reschedule with the teacher with them. So this is fantastic. When you get signed up for a class, you are immediately connected to the teacher. You'll have their contact information. You'll have their email address. You're connected to them via email. So you'll be connected to them and you'll have been introduced to them. So you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to come in today. I've got a sick kid. Can we do next Wednesday instead? And then that way you are coordinating with them directly. And then, of course, just loop us in and let us know so we can update it in the system. And then the last and final expectation is that you show up between 10 to 15 minutes early before your scheduled class starts, just so you can make sure to get checked in at the front office. You'll have to usually get a badge or sign in through a little computer. You will also typically get escorted to the classroom. So just give yourself time to make sure you do all those things and then get your technology set up once you actually get in the classroom. So we at Financial Beginnings have several different program types. We have some youth programs, adult programs, and we also have programs that are geared and kind of flexible as well. So first, kicking it off with our youth programs, we have 4 different programs that are geared for youth participants. So these are footings, framings, foundations, and pathways. Footings is typically geared towards elementary level students. Framings is typically geared towards middle school students. And foundations and pathways are typically geared towards high school students. But these are also 2 programs that can also be used towards adults as well. One of the great things about all of our youth programs is that they meet the social science content standards for financial literacy. So some of you may know, depending on when you went to high school, that personal finance and financial literacy actually used to be a required class. It used to be a class that everyone had to take. But somewhere around the 90s, they got rid of this class and it was no longer a required class. It became an elective, and really only in schools that had the resources to have a business teacher or to have a personal finance teacher. So in 2011, the Oregon State Board of Education decided, okay, we need to add financial literacy back into the program. And so we're going to add it as a standalone course standard with an increased focus. So that's great because it means that we're giving financial literacy more of an increased focus again. It's becoming a standalone course standard again. This is great. But like I mentioned, not every school has a business department or a personal finance teacher. And so what they decided was that it would live under the social science umbrella. So under the social science umbrella, that means that it's the responsibility of economics or history or general social science teachers to teach personal finance. Now, I can definitely see the ties between economics and personal finance. But for those of you who work in banking or in personal finance or in any of these realms, you might know that those are actually different topics. And a lot of our economics teachers don't really feel comfortable teaching kids about money and about personal finance. And they'll tell you straight up that supply and demand on a macro level is very different than supply and demand on a consumer level, and that inflation on a global level is very different than inflation on a personal level. So for a lot of them, and especially if they're not economics teachers. Maybe they got their master's in history or their master's in political science or their master's in, general social sciences. A lot of them don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to students about money. So what we've done is we've made it so all of our curriculum meets these social science content standards for financial literacy. So as a presenter of the Financial Beginnings curriculum, you are helping social science teachers to meet these benchmarks. And we're doing it in a really meaningful way because you're all professionals in your field and because you're bringing in personal stories and experiences that you have had in your life. We're really able to check these boxes in a way that's really meaningful, and not just in a way that's like, okay, we're just going to check boxes just to check boxes. And again, any teacher who wants our programs can have them. It's not just going to be social science teachers. We do have a lot of personal finance teachers who use our programs. We have lots of other types of teachers that use our programs, but for the most part, you'll see that it's social science teachers in the social science classrooms that you're in. So these are some of the examples. So explain and analyze kinds and costs of insurance. Explain how consumers can protect themselves from fraud, identity theft, bankruptcy, and foreclosure. Compare and contrast tools for payment and explain the advantages and disadvantages for each. Identify and explain opportunities for investment and draw economic conclusions from market data. Compare and contrast different options for investment. The difference between stocks, bonds, CDs, mutual funds, IRAs, 401ks, pension plans, and Social Security. Compare and contrast different types of loans and how to obtain them, including student loans. So as you can see, that if you're a social science teacher or even an economics teacher, these things might not necessarily be intuitive. So for you, though, for a lot of you and for our professional volunteers and our professional folks, some of these might be things that you feel totally comfortable talking about. I'm sure that our insurance agent explains and analyzes the kinds and costs of insurance all day, and you could do that and bring examples in and talk about it in ways that brings it really to life for these students. For our bank and credit union volunteers, you talk about the different tools for payment all day, and you can really do that in a way that's really meaningful. For our financial advisor volunteers, you talk about these different options for investment all the time, and can really bring it to life for students. So that's why our model is so fantastic. We have people who not only have professional experiences in this, but also maybe even personal experiences in this as well. And students love hearing about that. So, even if it's not a topic that you feel like you have professional background in, maybe you have personal stories to talk about banking or budgeting or credit, and students can really learn from those as well. So now we're going to go a little bit more in depth into each of our youth programs to talk a little bit more about what they all entail and what the students will be learning through each of them. So kicking it off with the Financial Footings curriculum, we've separated this into two steps, Step 1 and Step 2. Step 1 is geared towards kindergarten through second graders. It's done in 4 really short bursts, so just 4 20 to 30 minute sessions, because the attention span for students in this age group is just a little shorter. And it's just really, really basic information, like what is money and what each type of money is worth. It's very fun. It's very activities driven. But because these are such small sessions, typically when a teacher requests these class, we'll have the teacher teach it themselves. But that being said, if you have a student in this age group and you want to teach in their class and you want to teach this program, you can absolutely feel empowered to do that. Then we have Step 2, which is geared towards 3rd through 6th graders. So, 3rd through 6th graders are very, very different than kindergarten through 2nd graders. Anyone who has kids or nieces or nephews or who have spent time with kids can attest to that. That those two age groups are very different. So the fact that they have 2 different types of curriculum is really, really critical. You're talking of the difference between, kids that are 5 versus kids that are potentially 11. So in the 3rd through 6th grade curriculum, we really go a little bit more advanced, into the difference between a bank and a credit union, what credit is and what credit should be used for, the different concepts of banking and what they mean and how they can affect these students, what savings is and the difference between a checking account and a savings account and a credit card. This is done in 4-hour-long sessions, and those can be set up however the educator would like. So they can do, 4 days in a row or 4 weeks in a row or 4 months in a row. Obviously, we try to discourage them from doing 4 days in a row because these are actually all taught by one volunteer. So when you sign up all 4 of the lessons will be listed out. So you're signing up for all 4. And so we do try to have the educators refrain from doing 4 days in a row, just because we know it's really hard for, our working volunteers to go out and leave the office 4 days in a row to go teach. It's still very fun and engaging. There is a banking bingo. There's a budgeting game. There is a Jeopardy. It's still very fun and engaging and activities driven, but just a little bit more advanced. So then we have our financial framings curriculum, which is geared towards 7th and 8th graders. And this is a little bit more economics focused. So it's a really cool program. Basically, kind of a 2-part program. The first part is the presenter will spend some time going through PowerPoint, teaching students about large-scale economics concepts like supply and demand and scarcity and inflation and what all of these things mean. And then the second part is going over scenarios and these different scenarios and how they would affect consumers and financial institutions and global economy, and how all of these things are interconnected. So how consumers are connected to financial institutions, how financial institutions are connected to local businesses, how businesses are connected to the national economy, and how the national economy is connected to the global economy. And so the students, you'll read off these scenarios, and students will either in small groups or in partners and pairs talk about how these different scenarios would affect each of those different levels. So an example is, okay, what happens when the minimum wage is increased? How does that affect consumers? How does that affect the government? How does that affect financial institutions? How does that affect the global economy? How does that affect the national economy, etc.? And so students can use critical thinking skills to start thinking about how things that happen at the large scale and macro level can affect personal finance. And it's just a way for them to start thinking about the fact that economics is connected to personal finance and how. So then we get into our financial foundations courses. And the financial foundations courses are really the bread and butter of everything that we do as an organization. So Jasmine, I want to give you a minute to chat a little bit about the financial foundations courses and what they entail and what they kind of look like. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unmute you, Jasmine, or you got
Perfect.
it?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Priscilla. Yeah, our financial foundations courses are probably our most requested courses, and also, I think like Priscilla might have mentioned earlier, really the bread and butter of the organization, of the programs that Financial Beginnings Oregon provides. And so all of the modules that you see on your screen are part of the foundations program. So there's banking, budgeting, credit, investing, risk management, and entrepreneurship. And all of these can be standalone classes, or a lot of our educators and community-based organizations can also do the whole series, or maybe they just want to do a couple of these modules. And so we're able to be really flexible with this piece as well. These programs, like Priscilla mentioned earlier, are primarily geared towards high school students, but as you can kind of just see from the overall topics, they are also really beneficial for adult participants as well, and we utilize them, I think, the most as well in our community-based organization partnerships. And they typically will be 90 minutes, all of these courses, or they can be longer. We definitely want them to be at least 90 minutes, and so when you're signing up to teach one of these foundations classes, the expectation, or you can expect to be teaching for at least 90 minutes. And each of these courses also comes with all of the different presenter materials that we mentioned earlier, as well as some additional activities. More so, I think, foundations, and we'll talk about pathways in a little bit. The student resource guides are more focused on providing templates, and there's a lot of opportunities for participants to actually take the time and think about, experiences that they've had, or maybe, put together a budget for themselves in the budgeting class. So things like that, a little bit less activity-based and more discussion and thinking about real-life examples. So that's something I think that is really great and unique about these programs themselves. And yeah, I don't know, Priscilla, if you have anything else that you'd like to add or that I missed.
No, that was perfect. Yeah, like Jasmine mentioned, I mean, they're really fantastic. And the great part about the fact that, not only can teachers decide, oh, they only want to do these three or whatever. You as the volunteer, when you sign up for these, you're only signing up for the one session. You're only signing up for a 90-minute module. So even if the teacher has signed up for all 6 programs, you can decide which ones you want to sign up for. And even if they've signed, all 6 of their periods up on Monday for banking, and then all 6 up on Tuesday for budgeting, and all 6 up on Wednesday for credit, you can pick and choose. You can say, well, look, I can only do this one period, and I can come in for this 90 minutes and teach banking. Or you can decide, oh, look, there's 3 hours of banking next to each other. I want to teach all 3 of them. So you can do that as well, and it's great because they can mix and match, and so can you. You can decide which ones of these you feel really comfortable with, and as you continue to familiarize yourself with the curriculum, you can kind of decide, well, now that I've worked with the curriculum, I'm going to start off with risk management, but then after I've done this a couple times, I feel comfortable with budgeting and credit too, or whatever you feel comfortable with. So it's definitely our bread and butter. This is what the program that we provide for both our adult and high school participants, depending on the group of adults that we're working with. So then we have our Pathways program, and our Pathways program is geared towards preparing students for higher education and what life after they graduate, and also preparing students who have already graduated and who are in college or who are in their next step after they graduate with how to manage debt. So these are set up very similar to Foundations. They're each 90 minutes. They each have their own PowerPoint, presenter's guide, and resource guide. And they all are same thing as the Foundations. They're all designed to be standalone. So there are 5 different modules for Pathways: career and education path, comparing schools and costs, financing college, managing debt accumulation, and managing debt after college. And for those of you who actually, I should just realize, for those of you who aren't seeing a screen, I'm going to read off the Foundations ones as well. Banking, budgeting, credit, investing, risk management, and entrepreneurship. So these are set up to be really similar. For the Pathways, the first 3, so career and education path through financing college, those are really geared towards students who are in school and preparing for graduation. And then managing debt accumulation and managing debt after college are really geared towards students who have already graduated from college or who are in college and are trying to prepare to manage the debt that they've accumulated. But that being said, really, it's totally up to the teacher. So we have had 8th graders who go through these programs. We've had high schoolers who go through them, all of them, including the last 2. And then we've also had, of course, students who have already gone through college go through all of them as well, because they find that they're still really useful for them to know this information. So some additional programming that we have and we provide, one is our SAFE program, the Student Academy for Financial Empowerment. This program is geared towards college level and community college level students, and any groups that are serving students kind of in the 18 to 24 range, so young adults. This program is kind of a mix and match of Foundations and Pathways with one-on-one mentorship. So students receive 5 modules. Those modules are goals and tools, income and taxes, credit and debt, protecting yourself, which is insurance, and savings and retirement. And then they have the opportunity to get paired with a mentor and get one-on-one financial coaching. So the training that you're all going through now does give you the ability and the resources to go to do any of the workshops and sessions. But if you would like to be a mentor, there is an opportunity to become a mentor. So when we send you your conduct form at the end of this training, you'll have to sign and fill out a conduct form and send it back to us to get your account set up. There's a place that tells us and notates that you're interested in becoming a mentor. And when we do our next mentorship training, you'll be invited. And then Forward is our newest curriculum. It's going to be in pilot stage this winter. It'll be kind of the next step up for adults. So any adults who want a little bit more advanced than just the foundational building blocks that Foundations provides, there's a little bit more advanced curriculum, and it's very similar to SAFE in that it's mentorship and sessions paired together. And once we have some more details, we'll be able to let you know what that's going to look like as well. We also do host a panel series. You can actually watch our newest panel on our Facebook page. We did a panel recently in partnership with the Department of Consumer and Business Services, DCBS. We did a panel on insurance and being auto wise. So if you're interested in watching that panel just to kind of see what some of our panels look like, you can watch that on our Facebook page. We host these panels about 4 times a year. And then finally, we have our annual Financial Literacy Conference. This conference is our biggest event of the whole year. And this event is our opportunity to give back to the teachers and the nonprofit employees that utilize our programs year round. So it's our opportunity to give back to them. So we provide them with programming that is geared towards helping them with not only providing them with resources and tools to bring back to their classroom or their organization and empowering those that they work with around personal finance issues, but also helping them to have tools and resources around their own finances. So teaching teachers about PERS and their own retirement planning, and teaching nonprofit employees how they can plan for their retirement or how they can budget. So really just a really fantastic conference. We host it every year on the statewide in-service day. So October 12th this year at Canby High School will be the conference this year. Several of you who are on today are actually with organizations who are involved in our conference. So if you're interested in participating either as at this point as a volunteer, I believe we're still looking for volunteers to fill volunteer opportunities for that. Jasmine, are we still looking for volunteers for the conference at this point?
Yeah, we are. And so when I receive your conduct form as well and give you your volunteer account, I'll also include information about, what those are, but essentially there's various different roles and responsibilities throughout the day that are really going to help us provide like a really great event. We will be checking people in the morning. There's a really fun opportunity to help manage a photo booth and help people get to where they're going. So I'll write up in that email kind of what that looks like, and then we can connect if you're interested in helping us out on that day.
Fantastic. Thanks for the information. So now I want to take a little bit of time to talk a little bit about cultural money values and the values that all of us actually have around money and how our culture can shape our values that we have in money and ultimately the behaviors that we execute around money. So I just want the kind of foundation for this. It's important to remember that we provide our Foundations and Pathways programs with vastly different audiences. So sometimes it's with high school students, and sometimes it's with adults. And even when it's with high school students, sometimes you'll notice that the culture of one high school is very different than the culture of another. A high school in deep Southeast Portland or in Gresham is going to be very different than a high school in the suburbs. And both of those are going to be very different than an alternative school. We did some focus groups last year where we actually talked with students at 4 drastically different high schools. And the things that they want to learn to budget for are different. Some students want to learn, all they care about is they want to know about budgeting for college next year. That's all they care about. Some students, they have to know about budgeting for childcare and for a job and a part-time job and meals and groceries and things like that. But then when you're working with adults, it's a whole other ballgame. They have to worry about budgeting for a whole other different resource of things. So the curriculum that you're given is the same, but oftentimes the audience that you're working with is going to be different. So it's your responsibility to find and use examples that are appropriate to the lived experience of your audience. So remember that when we're working with adults, we're often working with adults who are with local homeless shelters, correctional facilities, or with other nonprofits. So for example, if you're, if you're working with Habitat for Humanity, they're receiving a house, and they have all kinds of different things that they have to do to be able to retain this house and keep this house, and they're probably going to want to learn about those things. So just recognize and understand, and remember that each audience that you work with might have a different lived experience and will want to learn about a topic that's the exact same topic, but in a little bit of a different way. So while we give you one curriculum to work with, it's your responsibility as the presenter and the person delivering the materials to kind of gauge what that starting point is, what the students or participants, where their starting point is, where their lived experience is at, the kinds of examples that are appropriate to use, and then execute those types of examples. So the needs of students at different high schools can be different. The needs of students in high schools versus adults is different. And even though the curriculum is the same, you get to use your judgment in what examples, personal stories, etc., are relevant. So, for example, in the budgeting curriculum, we'll talk about things like saving for a vacation home versus saving for college versus saving for childcare and rent and groceries and things like that. And you can determine what examples are appropriate and what aren't. And we've given you activities and discussion to be able to make those judgments. So in the beginning, one of the first questions you'll even ask in the budgeting curriculum is, what would you do if you win the lottery? And I really encourage you to have every single student answer that question. What would you do if you won the lottery? What would you do? What would you do? What would you do? And that way you can gauge their answers on what kinds of things they're interested in learning about. So if you notice in your classroom that most of the students are talking about college and buying cars or buying a computer or buying books for college, or it's college centered, you can then make your examples and lessons more college focused or planning for the next year focused. If you realize it's more about, trade school, or more about, planning for right now and childcare or rent and groceries, you can make those things focused. If you realize that talking about a vacation home is totally inappropriate, then you can leave that example out. So even though we've given you examples, you can leave those examples out. And you can also ask your students what they're budgeting for. When in doubt, ask them. So ask your audience and use the icebreaker to gauge the varying needs of your students. And what we have is something called an 80-20 rule. So 80% of the curriculum should be as we packaged it. 20% you can add your own flair. Use that 80-20 rule to your advantage. So then just going back to kind of the cultural side of things, no decisions that anyone makes, including and especially financial ones, are ever made in a vacuum. All of us bring in our cultural influences, whether that's how we were raised, our religion, our family habits, our race, our ethnicity, our sexual orientation, our gender identity. All of these factors influence our beliefs or values and or experiences about money and the way we handle our different financial decisions. And all of these cultural values can affect our financial behavior. So when you're working with students and you're working with participants, just remember that when you're providing them with lessons on this, that there's no such thing as a bad habit. So if you're finding that students are talking about in their budgeting, giving a lot of money to their religious institution, and every time I get my paycheck, maybe you're going to a local organization and they're talking about how every time they get their paycheck, 90% of it goes to their religious organization first, or their family first. Being able to recognize that comes from cultural influence, and that decision that they're making comes from how they were raised and or their experiences and their values, and that's not a bad habit, and just how to kind of lead them towards, okay, that's fantastic that you provide that strengths-based feedback of, wow, that's so great that you are so committed to providing money to your family first, or to your religious institution first. One of the great things that will help you to get out of debt will be to pay yourself first and pay your bills first, and then all the money that's left over you can put towards this organization or this group or this value. Or maybe you're noticing that a person is like really passionate about shopping local and organic, and so you're noticing that they're spending a lot lot more money on groceries, for example, because they're shopping at, Whole Foods or, New Seasons. And, hey, maybe some of this you can buy in bulk, or you can do these things in a more cheap way, and we'll figure out a way to not compromise your values and also still help you to move towards a decision that is, that is saving and being able to provide, and budget effectively. So really being able to provide that strengths-based feedback and to really respect the cultural values of our participants, I think is really, really important, and will really help you to teach lessons to students that might have a different lived experience than you do. And some of the examples are being, like I mentioned, spending money on family or community first before paying bills, helping you to understand those cultural influences without being judgmental. So even if those aren't ways you would spend your own money, you can provide them with the lessons without being judgmental, and just really help you to discuss those financial decision making in a respectful way. And then finally, just don't forget to check your assumptions. So I just mentioned a bunch of different, cultural values, but not everyone fits into certain cultural norms, and we shouldn't assume they do. So we can ask students always, ask them, what are you budgeting your money on? What are you saving for? What would you do if you won the lottery? And that question often guides you into helping you to determine where your students are at in making their decisions around money. So putting it into practice, what are the different ways that you can actually get out there and teach? So first, shadowing, that's really, really important. Shadowing helps you to be able to see how other volunteers are doing this work and how they are presenting the materials differently to different organizations and to different groups. Shadowing is a great way to see and put into practice. And Jasmine will send you shadowing opportunities when she sends you your login information. Another thing are other extra training opportunities. So I'll go ahead and show you. Let's go ahead really quickly, and I'm going to open up my Chrome here and show you all how to do this. But if you go onto the website and go basically to the exact same place that you went to sign up for this training, you can see here that in this area where all of the trainings will be, there are these how to teach classes. So the next one coming up is how to teach credit. So if you want to take this how to teach credit class, we'll actually do a deep dive into the credit materials and the credit lesson. So that's a really great way to get more information. And then finally, just getting out there and getting into the classroom. So now I'm going to take a quick minute to actually show you all how to use the website, how to access the curriculum, and all of that. But before we move on to the website demo, I really do want to give all of you an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. So let me go ahead and just go to our participants and unmute everybody. Does anyone have any questions thus far? All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and keep going then. We're going to go ahead and go back to sharing the screen and put up the website. So first things first, you want to access the finbegor.org website. This is really, really important. If you access the Financial Beginnings Oregon website or the financialbeginnings.org website, you have to make sure to click on Oregon and get to this Oregon site to sign in. So you'll see here that it'll say Financial Beginnings Oregon. Now, if you're a volunteer maybe that lives in, Vancouver or North Portland, and you want to volunteer both Portland and Washington, on the conduct form, you'll write which counties you want to volunteer in, and that does include Washington counties. And so if you want to do both, you can actually sign into either Oregon or Washington, but you do want to get to the state sites. Signing into this, the main Financial Beginnings just.org, that's the national organization website. So you do not want to sign in through here. You want to make sure you can see the logo that says Oregon to sign in here. So after you do this training, you'll receive an email from me with the conduct form. And then you'll want to respond back with that, and you'll want to send it back to us. And then Jasmine will send you your login information. So you'll get a username and password to the website, and then you'll have full access for our website and all of the materials. So we'll go ahead and start off by looking at how to sign up for a class. And just to show you and let you all know, if you click on classroom materials and scroll all the way down here to volunteer resources, there's this really great handbook that can lead you through everything I'm going to show you. So everything, all the screenshots and everything for what I'm going to show you will be, you can see here in this book, and this is actually interactive, so you can actually click on it and it'll take you to the site as well. So I just wanted to refer you to that as we kind of go through this, in case you forget, wait, how did she get there, or how did she do that? You can see those things. So we'll go ahead and click on this blue volunteer box, and the first way you'll find out about classes is by clicking on the dashboard. The dashboard is great because the dashboard only shows you opportunities that fit your criteria. So your criteria is going to be different than my criteria, but either way, these are some classes that are available right now. We actually have a ton of investing classes that are tomorrow at Glencoe High School in Hillsborough that need to volunteer. We have a risk management class on Monday that needs a volunteer, budgeting class that needs a volunteer. September is our busiest month because teachers, they don't really get back into the classroom or get back into the groove of things until the last week of August. So they start requesting classes, like a week ago for, hey, I want someone to come next week. So, you'll see that there are lots of, all of a sudden, a huge spike in opportunities in September. So if you want to teach any of these classes, the way you would sign up is you would just click on view class details. You can see all the information here, the location, on-site projector. Classroom has the ability to project a PowerPoint, yes or no. So that's whether or not they have the technological ability to project, the age group, the grade level, the class size, in case you want to bring like prizes or anything like that, how many students there are. And then to teach, you just click sign up to teach this class. It's that easy. And as soon as we approve it on our end, you'll then be connected to the teacher. Another way to sign up to volunteer would be to click on find a class. And this is where you can be really specific. So you can say, okay, I want to see all the opportunities now until the end of January. I only want to see, all class types and all age groups, but I only want to see opportunities in Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas County. And I can click search for classes, and then all of the opportunities that fits that criteria will show up. So there's lots of opportunities. There's some opportunities at Impact Northwest, banking, budgeting, and credit in November. There's a class at Fur Ridge High School, at Dress for Success, Oregon, budgeting class, Pivot Job Corps Center, all of these opportunities for you to teach. And if you wanted to sign up for them, all you would do, again, is just click on this view class details, and then click sign up to teach this class. So really, really easy to teach. You'll also see here that we have listed the low income information as well, so the information. So if you're looking to teach at only organizations or schools that have 51% or higher for either CRA goals, or just because personally you really want to teach it, low income organizations, if there's nothing listed here, that means it's under 50%. If it's something listed here, it means it's over 50%. So just for you to kind of know. You can also click here. Let's go back, search for a class to shadow instead. And let's just uncheck these counties. And let's just look for all the opportunities to shadow. Here are all the opportunities to shadow over the next couple of weeks. And you can shadow as many times as you'd like before teaching. And it's, again, a great way for you to see how, in the style that other presenters teach before teaching on your own. So if you want to shadow, you can go ahead and click. So let's say you wanted to shadow this banking class at Pivot Job Corps Center. You could just click on sign up to shadow this class. And again, as soon as it's accepted and approved, you will get introduced to the presenter and let them know that you're coming to shadow them. So now you have signed up to teach or shadow. Now you want to download your materials. So you'll click here on classroom materials. And here is everything you could need to teach any class. Now, this document library might not, there are some of you in some banks and credit unions where we have worked it out and it works, and you can download these at your work, at your desk, and there's no problem. US Bank, you should have no problem accessing these materials from your bank computer. Umpqua Bank employees, you will not be able to download these from your bank computer. So you'll either have to do one of two things: either access these from the Umpqua site, which they are on the Umpqua site, or number two, you can email us and ask us to send you the materials. So let's say you've signed up for a class, you signed up for banking, you can just email Jasmine or I and say, hey, Jasmine, Priscilla, can you send me the banking materials? Or you can sign up from home. You can sign at home. You'd be surprised, even though you're signing in with your bank email address, it's actually attached to your bank email address. So even though it might not work at your bank or credit union, it would work from home. It's a totally separate sign in. It's not actually accessing your bank email address. So you can sign on from your home website or home computer if you have access to one. So let's say we were teaching budgeting. There's three things here. There's the resource guide. This is the guide that the students get. You don't really need to worry about this too much, except to know that it's there in case you want to refer to it. But we will be sending the students the guides pre the class. So you don't need to worry about printing these or making sure you have them with you or making sure you have enough for 30 students. Don't worry about that. We're going to send the guides to the students. We have guides printed already. We get guides printed for the whole year. So don't worry about that. But what you have here are the presenter's guide and PowerPoint. So if you click here, the presenter's guide will take you to the guide that walks you to how to teach it, and then the PowerPoint presentation. When you sign up to teach a class, as you saw earlier, it'll say right away whether or not the classroom has the ability to project a PowerPoint, yes or no. So if this says yes, that means that classroom or organization has the technology for a PowerPoint. If it says no, it means they don't, in which case either you'll bring your own projector if you have one, you can borrow one from us, or sometimes in some cases, like at correctional facilities, we're not allowed to bring a projector in at all, and you just use your presenter's guide and the students have their guide, and you just teach that way. But any opportunity where you can use the PowerPoint, please do. And the goal of this is we want to teach students and meet them where they're at. So some students are visual learners. Some students are audio learners. Some students like to write things down. So we have really hit them at all three pieces. So the student guide, or the presenter's guide, I'm going to go ahead and go all the way up to the top here. We'll say presenter's guide right here on the cover. I recommend printing a copy of the presenter's guide. That's number one. And if you don't have access to a printer, you can email Jasmine or I, and we can print a copy for you. My next recommendation is to download the PowerPoint. And this is really cool. I will go ahead and just share my whole desktop with you. The PowerPoint has speaker's notes in the PowerPoint. So you can see here that there's speaker's notes that goes along with the PowerPoint. So you can use these speaker's notes to actually help guide you through the lesson. So between these speaker's notes and the presenter's guide, which you can see walks you through each lesson and literally tells you how much time you should spend on each lesson, the objective of that activity, and then the summary, and then literally walks you through, okay, what page should you be referring the students to in the resource guide? What slide should you be on? And then walks you through what you should be saying. So everything in a thought bubble here is something you should actually be saying to the students. So this literally walks you through how to teach the class. And if you print a hard copy of the PowerPoint, print a hard copy of the presenter's guide. And then I like to do 4 things with my PowerPoint. Number 1, I bring my PowerPoint on a flash drive. Number 2, I email the PowerPoint to myself. Number 3, I email the PowerPoint to the teacher. And number 4, I print a copy of the PowerPoint in a notes view. So if you click on layout and click on notes view, that way if there's any technical difficulties and your PowerPoint isn't working, you have the slides and the notes here right in front of you anyway. And the really great thing about this is that when you actually have this all plugged in and working in the classroom, if you click on slideshow and click on presenters view, you see these notes, and these notes can help guide you through the lesson. So this is really, really, really helpful when you're teaching a class. So just really quickly now, going to head back over to our PowerPoint to go over a couple more things before we go over the end here. Basically, the way it works is an educator will go online and request a class. And when we say educator, we mean a teacher, so someone at a school, or any coordinator or host of a teacher. So let's say a class, or of a class, sorry. So let's say there's a nonprofit that wants a class. The person who scheduled that class, they are the quote-unquote educator. Once the educator has requested the class, it's then posted on the website and available for volunteers to see and sign up for. You will then have the ability to sign up for the class. Once it's then approved, it will show up on your profile. So you have a little profile that will show you all of the classroom opportunities that you have ever done. So if I go back to my volunteer profile here, if I click on my name and I click here on volunteer, and I go, here are my classes that I asked to sign up for. They're still pending approval. And then if I click on past assigned classes, here are all the classes that I've ever taught before. So you always can see, where you've taught, where, what you've done. And that's a great way for you to kind of look back and say, oh, look, these are all the things and these are the hours that I've gone out and taught in the community. Another really great resource for you on the website that you have is if you click here on the volunteer page again, if you go to presenter tutorials, these are some really great self-guided lessons that you can use. And so if you click on banking, for example, and you scroll down, there's actually lessons that you can go through. So the intro, the timeline, all of the different appendices and activities, and it walks you through what those are and how to use them, the course objectives and what, those are, the different resources available to you. And then at the end, there's an actual video of someone teaching in the classroom, so you can actually watch this. So there's some great opportunities for you in here, really great resources for you to kind of go through some self-guided training if you want a little bit more than just the presenter's guide. And again, you can also sign up for those how to teach classes. We'll have about one a month, and you can always find those in the sign up for volunteer. There's one to teach credit that's scheduled, but we'll sign up for more coming up here soon. So some classroom tips that I have for you: arrive 10 to 15 minutes early, park in a visitor spot. This is the spot usually right up front. So really right up front in the front, they'll usually say visitor on them. We can park there. You'll want to sign in and out at the front office, prepare your materials. So again, like I said, get your PowerPoint ready to go. When you first sign up for a class, you will be introduced to the teacher. So I really do recommend reaching out to the teacher. The introductory email will say, Josh will be bringing a PowerPoint. What's the best way for Josh to bring the PowerPoint? And so the teacher will tell you what the best way is. But again, I just like to be extra safe and extra careful. So that's why I bring it in all the different ways, just in case there's any technical difficulties. I definitely don't recommend just waiting to download it from our website on the computer at the school, because oftentimes our website is blocked. So I recommend making plans beforehand. Also, if you're going to use that 80-20 rule and add your own slides or add some personal stories, you might have a PowerPoint that's a little different than the one that's on our website. So introduce yourself. I like to ask lots of questions and give lots of examples. So all of those different, there's tons of opportunities to engage students within the curriculum. An activity can be sometimes either a real written activity, or an activity is a discussion and something that you actually ask the students. I really, really, really recommend using every opportunity you possibly can to engage students. If you are in sometimes the elementary level kids class, you can make a kid be the timekeeper. The timekeeper is oftentimes a great opportunity for you to say, okay, if you see that there's a kid that might be the disruptive kid, you can say, okay, I want you to tell me when there are 15 minutes left so we can play bingo. But if you don't, then we can't play bingo. And then that kid will spend all of their, energy telling you when there are 15 minutes left instead of disrupting their neighbors. But don't actually trust them to tell you when there are 15 minutes left, because they very well might miss the mark. There are activities like that. Bingo, for example, is in the high school curriculum and in the kids curriculum. And I oftentimes have high school teachers who email me who are like, the volunteer didn't play bingo with my high school students. Why didn't they play bingo? These are activities that are ingrained in the curriculum that are there for you to use to engage the students. Other ways to stay involved. We have a program committee. The program committee is our committee in our way for you to be involved through program promotion, program evaluation, ensuring that our programs are reflecting the lived experience of our students, making sure our programs are inclusive and equitable, making sure that we're engaging with new partners. So if you're interested in joining the program committee, please let me know. Events like we mentioned earlier, the Financial Literacy Conference is the one that's coming up most quickly. Jasmine can let you know about opportunities to volunteer at the conference. If you're interested, definitely let her know. Word of mouth is critical. We really are looking to be in as many schools at counties, areas, and places as we possibly can. We want to be statewide. That's my dream, is that we are a statewide organization that really does operate out of every single county and operates in every school district. So if there's a school we're not working with and you have a connection there, please connect us to them. We really want to be connected to them. Administrative help. This is really great. Jasmine, talk a little bit about some of the administrative opportunities that there are to get involved at Financial Beginnings Oregon.
Sure, yeah. Well, a lot of the administrative opportunities kind of vary depending on the time of the year and also what else is going on for the organization. But I can say that they vary from anything from, we do collect feedback from both participants in several different ways on individual modules, and then overall at the end of the year on, how they're actually utilizing the lessons that they learned during the programs. And so there's a lot of databasing and information that we collect, and we would definitely love some additional support there. But also I think just connecting, doing follow-up emails or calls to educators, reminding them, about, collecting that information with shipping, and also just kind of organizing materials around the office to be able to get all of the classroom and student resource guides, activities, additional, whatever it is that they may need out to folks. That's also something that's helpful and happens on a weekly or a daily basis. So those are some of the but some of the ways in which volunteers can come into the office and, help us ensure that folks are getting this information without actually directly teaching a class. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Yeah, and some people, might be feeling, wow, this is a really cool organization, but I don't really know if, public speaking is for me, or if that's really something I want to do. And if that's the case, totally fine. There's lots of other ways to be involved and to stay involved and to help us out dramatically. So Jasmine just listed some of those ways. So next steps, you will all receive an email from me. I will send you a conduct form. So please do send me back the conduct form, fill it out, send it back. And then you'll get your login information from Jasmine. She'll send you that, and also a list of opportunities that are available to shadow, or if you're ready to start teaching, to teach. So she'll send you opportunities that are coming up that we may need a person that are great for you to shadow, or maybe urgent opportunities where we need a teacher that if you say, oh, I'm ready to teach, she can send you some opportunities that might be a good fit for you. And then finally, if you have forgotten everything that I have said today, but you only remember these 5 things. Number 1, remember the 80-20 rule. 80% of the materials should be as we packaged it and presented it. 20% you can add your own flair, add slides, add personal stories, add examples, change the examples, make the examples appropriate for the experience of the students you're working with. One thing we ask that you do not change, though, are the objectives. And usually these are the second or third slide of the slideshow. It's also in the student guide on page 1 and on your guide on page 5. So you'll always have a copy of the objectives no matter what. If you want to do a class with someone, so let's say you're like, great, I'm ready to go. I just want to take this curriculum and teach it with this organization I volunteer with, or I just want to take this curriculum and teach it in my kids' class. That's great. We love it when people do that. Just give us at least a week's notice so we can make sure to get you the guides that you need. Shadowing, you can shadow as many times as you'd like before teaching a class, but also if you feel ready to teach, that's fine too. It's totally up to you and what your comfort level is. And then finally, evaluations. And in the guide, all the students will have an evaluation, and in the presenter's guide, there's a little script at the very end on how to administer the evaluations. The evaluations just tell us how well we are doing at providing the students with this information. Please do collect the evaluations from the students at the end of class, and you can either send these to us via mail or arrange to drop them off to us, or we can come and pick them up, or you can scan them into us and send them via email, whichever is easiest for you. So that is all I have for you. Do any of you have any questions for me? And I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Priscilla, this is Audrey. You said that you're going to be recording today's session. If we email you, could we get a copy?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. There was a lot of great information in there, and I want to be able to go back over it.
Yeah, definitely. Fantastic, Lisa. Excited for you to get started as well. All right. If no one else has any questions or anything else, thank you all so much for joining me this morning. I'm so excited for all of you to get started. You can expect to get an email from me really shortly with the conduct form, and then you can go ahead and fill that out and send it back to Jasmine and myself, and then you'll get your login information from Jasmine. I would say you can expect to get that by Friday. So if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to either one of us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.